Okay, so welcome everyone to our Meet the Candidates night put on by the Point Roberts Voters Association. Thank you to all of the candidates that have attended, and thank you for all the community members who have come to join us. I'm going to ask for each of the candidates to stand up, introduce themselves, and let us know what office they're running for and why. I would ask you to please keep it short, under 3 minutes, and we will start with yourself.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm Donnell Tanksley. I'm the Chief of Police with the City of Blaine. I started my career about 30 years ago in St. Louis, Missouri, and I worked there for 21 years, went through the ranks in St. Louis. St. Louis Police Department is about the 38th largest PD in the country, and I retired as a lieutenant. In 2014, I was hired by Western Washington University Police Department as their Assistant Chief of Police, and worked there for 3 years. And about a year and a half later, went to Portland State University as their Chief of Police. My wife, I met her at Western. So in 2019, I was fortunate enough to be selected as the Chief of Police with the City of Blaine. And in fact, our current sheriff, Bill Elfo, he was the Chief of Police of Blaine prior to being elected to sheriff. Also, I have 22 years of military experience. I'm a retired veteran. I've lived in places like Japan, Bahrain, Iceland. Also, I have a bachelor's degree and 4 associate degrees. Also a graduate of Northwestern University Police and Command College. And also I hold an executive police certification here in the state of Washington. The reason why I'm running for sheriff is to make sure that we all have safer neighborhoods, to make sure that we lower crime, to make sure that we lower incarceration, to make sure that when people are incarcerated, that those people have opportunities for substance use disorder help, opportunities for mental health, opportunities to get back into the community. So I believe in accountability, treatment, rehabilitation, and reintegration into society. One of the things that I would also like to do, if elected as sheriff, is to increase the training for all law enforcement officers in Whatcom County, specifically with the sheriff's office, to make sure that we have the most training, the best training available with regard to crisis intervention, de-escalation, mental health, to make sure that we're prepared for anything that happens. And additionally, I want to make sure that our Department of Emergency Management is prepared not only for the other parts of Whatcom County, but prepared for you here too at Point Roberts. So right now, I know that the Department of Emergency Management they've been doing some retooling, and I really want to help them with that retooling if elected. Thank you so much, and if you want to find out more, checkforsheriff.com. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Doug Chadwick. I'm a lifelong resident, grew up here in Whatcom County. My first interaction with Point Roberts was actually up here on 4th of July, helping my dad, who worked for the Parks Department out at Lighthouse Marine, direct traffic. A couple trips up here during fishing season, things like that. So I've always, if anybody knew Carl Prince when he was the park manager here, that's how long I've been coming up here. So again, born and raised here in Whatcom County. I'm the current undersheriff with the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office, Under Sheriff Elfo, and I'm a 29-year veteran of the Sheriff's Office. So I have risen through the ranks of the Sheriff's Office. In 1994, I started as a patrol deputy. I became a sergeant, a lieutenant. I was the chief of the Bureau of Investigations and Support Services. At the time that we were able to solve a 30-year homicide of somebody I went to high school with, Mandy Stavick. Our detectives worked on that case for nearly 30 years, and DNA was what got us to that point, and we were able to bring justice for Mandy and was able to go to her mother and let her know on her 81st birthday that we had found the person responsible for kidnapping her, raping her, and killing her. So it was actually, I went to Mount Baker High School, so she was in the class behind me. I knew her family, I knew her friends, I knew her classmates, I knew her teammates. So I really saw how that case impacted Whatcom County. And if you lived anywhere in Whatcom County, not just that South Fork Valley near Acme, but if you lived in Bellingham, Point Roberts, it really shattered people's sense of security and really got people thinking, how can something like that happen here in our quiet part of Washington State? So I was at Western and was actually pursuing a degree in biology when that case happened, and it hadn't been resolved. And I tried to start thinking, what need can I meet for my community, and maybe I can use my science background. And like I said, DNA was what ended up solving that case. So I decided to become a peace officer, and like I said, been with the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office for 29 years. So as far as the Sheriff's Office, it is a complex organization. We're not just responsible for law enforcement like a police chief, we're responsible for corrections. We run 2 correctional facilities in Bellingham. We're responsible for countywide emergency management, to include Point Roberts here. So if there's a tsunami, if there's coastal flooding, earthquakes, things like that, there are plans in place to help the community to respond, recover, and hopefully get back to normal lives. But as we're seeing in the Everson-Sumas area that was hit so hard in 2021, that recovery takes a long time, and you need people that understand emergency management and can help get the federal government to provide funding to help those folks. And unfortunately, a lot of times that help comes too slow when money is needed to rebuild their lives. So as far as I'm running for sheriff, again, because I believe in keeping Whatcom County safe. And that is, I want it safe for my family, for your family, and for future generations. I'm the only candidate for sheriff that has the depth of experience and leadership to step into the role of sheriff on day one and ensure a seamless transition to ensure public safety for all of us. So I look forward to working with all of you and improving safety in Whatcom County by finding the balance between grace and accountability. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Zoom call. Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Dan Purdy, and I'm running for Whatcom County Executive. My wife is in the back. We've been married for 19 years, and we have 3 teenagers in Linden, Washington. We moved to Linden because I've owned 4 businesses in the US and in Canada and in British Columbia. And I had a business that was covering Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Mission, Pitt Meadows, and Maple Ridge. Had that business for many years, and then COVID hit, just like many of you who are impacted by COVID here as well. I crossed that border every day, never shut down my business once, and I was considered an essential worker. Typically, I was the last person to come across at the Aldergrove crossing and close that gate with our Border Patrol officers. I know what it takes to live in a cross-border community, and we've been doing it for well over 10 years now. Along those lines, I've also been employed by 5 Fortune 500 companies. And why do I tell you that? Well, it's not to boast, but it's to remind you that this is a CEO position. The Whatcom County Charter calls the Whatcom County Executive the Chief Executive Officer. And that's what I'm running for here today. It's 900 employees, $271 million budget, and of course, 230,000 residents. You're Precinct 101, and my understanding is that you have been neglected up here for some time. I'm here to tell you that it's no longer business as usual, and I need to understand from you tonight the specific things that you're challenged by and how you want to leap forward with Point Roberts going forward. Yes, I've got some education as well. I've got my Master's of Business Administration. It had an emphasis in information technology, which will serve us well as we repurpose a lot of the county systems that are antiquated. In addition to that, I've got an undergraduate degree in international business management. I've also earned my certifications in Lean Six Sigma and got a black belt and a green belt and advanced tools in those areas. What that means is it allows me to repurpose and retool processes in a way that I don't think has been done in many, many years. Many of you have been challenged by the zoning laws. You've been challenged by some of the property assessments and such. Well, now it's time to take a real strong look at how that is going to really work for those in Precinct 101. One of the things that I'm campaigning on, well, some of the things that are really important to you, others you may not care about. But for sure, I'm setting the pace. PACE is an acronym for Public Safety, Accountability, and Fiscal Responsibility, Reducing the Cost of Living, and More Sensible Environmental Policies. I've just released a 100-day plan, and it has 6 points, which Allison won't allow me to detail in great number here yet today. But I would love to talk with you about them after or during the presentation here today. So thanks again for being here. My name is Dan Purdy. My website is danpurdy.com. If you want to know the truth about anything, Allison's in the back. She'll tell you if I pick up my socks or not. Thanks for being here tonight.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. I think it's important for citizens to participate in that, and that strengthens our democracy. My name is Satpal Sidhu. I'm running for the re-election as county executive. I came to this country 50 years ago with $5, but with 3 degrees. I was 19 years old when I got my first degree in physics and mathematics. And then I became an electrical engineer, and did my MBA, and I'm a Fulbright scholar, and I have worked all over the world. I'm a citizen of 3 countries. I'm a citizen of India, I'm a citizen of Canada, because I lived here for a while. And then for 35 years, I've lived in Washington County. I speak 4 different languages. Even alphabet is not the same. I'm just saying this because it widens your horizon of thinking and looking at every issue or problem in different ways. When I retired in 2013, I saw that how can I share my learnings, my experiences all over the world with the community? Because whatever I am is given to me by this country. Because this country adopted me, I adopted this country, and there's always good to pay back to your community, where community brought me to this point. And I thought that this would be the best way that I can serve my community and use my skills. But being a politician is not very popular, especially for retired people. Nobody wants to become a politician. But I think because it has its hazards, but I still opted for that. Even my kids didn't like it, that I should do this. There's many things you can do. Anyways, I have served on the county council for 5 years, and I have served as a county executive for 4 years. I was on the county executive's position only 2 months, and I was pressure tested. That, when we say that, okay, what it takes when really the rubber hits the road. And COVID came, oil train derailment happened, floods came, mental health issues, and of course, jail issue. I started in 2019, I made 3 or 4 promises, there were many, but once you go in 2 months, you forget all your promises, you got to do what is in front of you. But I did work on the water issue, the water adjudication. Nobody, last 50 years, no politician, local or at state level, ever wanted to touch that because they all thought it's a lose-lose situation. But I said, I promised that I will do that, and I have moved it forward. So looking forward to next 4 years to do that. The second thing I promised on the environment side, we did an audit for the whole county, buildings, vehicles, everything. We created a climate action plan, and was passed by the county council, and is now getting implemented. And then I talked about the jail. We were going to start in 2019, of course, COVID came, and then we started in end of 2021, and now we have that issue on the ballot. And I know there's very little time, but these are issues that you cannot package into 1 minute. But I think these things are the important things, and I would like to, I'm asking for your vote to continue on these things and a few more. Thank you very much.
We don't have a microphone, so I'm gonna have to use my inside voice. And kind of Ortis. And I'm running for Whatcom County Council at Large. I was raised out in the little town of Sumas. I graduated from Tech Valley High School, and I went on to Western Washington University, where I stayed and sat for about 20 years while I started to have my family. I met the love of my life 18 years ago. We have 3 boys, 12, 16, and my stepson who is 22. We're back out in Sumas now. We moved there right before the floods. So I feel some of your, the effects of what the floods did to your community. I was right up the road and watched a lot of my neighbors lose their homes as well. I spent a lot of time in leadership positions. I've been in 4 different industries. But I wanted to share, so the first candidate forum that I did during this election season was right here. And I think it's kind of ironic that this is also going to be the last one of this election season. And I want to share with you kind of what I've learned. What I've learned is that what you're probably looking for me right now is not a laundry list of all of my accomplishments. You can see it at my website, it's hannahforwacom.com. What you really want to know is, are you a candidate that cares? Are you someone that's gonna listen? I will. This is my community. I have lived here my entire life. Every milestone I've ever experienced, from my graduation to the birth of my children, have been right here in Whatcom County. So when I look at these faces, some I recognize from the primary, I don't just see voters. I see the faces of people who are connected in this community that I'm accountable to as an elected official. I was at Maple Valley, very small town as well, and I had a phone conversation with a woman who wanted to talk to me, and we didn't get a chance to talk there. And she shared with me about how she lost her son to fentanyl. She shared with me the challenges of what it's like to live in a small community separated from all of the big things and the big services, and she was a respite caregiver for people with Alzheimer's. And we connected that night, and we found out after about 10 minutes that we knew some of the same people. We were experiencing some of the same things, and having a campaign manager or consultants doesn't train you how to do that. Caring about the people that you want to serve in public service is, that just comes from wanting to be a voice for you. So again, if you want the laundry list of things I've accomplished, I'm on the North Sound Health Advisory Board, so I care about services. I care about having mental health services and substance abuse services for people in crisis. I care about our children. I care about our economies. I care about good jobs. And I humbly ask for your vote. So thank you for coming tonight.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming tonight. My name is John Scanlon. I'm running for Whatcom County Council at large. My background is I grew up in a family that was dedicated to community service and public service. I was raised by veterans. My dad was in the Navy and his dad was in the Navy. My other grandfather was in the Army. I was raised by healthcare workers and educators and people who were on town commissions where I grew up. The folks who raised me, my family, taught me to value that community service and public service, and I took that into my own career. I went on to work in state and federal government. I worked for a governor. I worked for a United States senator. I represented us abroad at the State Department, negotiating across the Asia Pacific region, spending time in West Africa delivering humanitarian aid. I then went to go work for humanitarian aid organizations for 12 years, working on human rights issues. And currently I do work with tribes and conservation organizations around public lands, public policy issues. I'm active in the community. I serve on the board of directors of Resources, one of the largest environmental organizations in our community that does a lot of work protecting water quality all across this county. I live in Bellingham, where I serve on a city commission on affordable housing, and that's an issue I want to work on countywide. We know we have an affordability crisis all across this county. I was here back in the summer as well. There were 3 of us on this stage in my race. One of my other opponents, my good friend Atul Deshmane, since endorsed me in this race for the election. And between the 2 of us, Point Roberts gave us a lot of support in the primary election. So thank you. I think you all were some of the most well-educated voters going into the primary because it was one of the only forums that had the 3 of us on the stage. So most of you have your ballots. I see some folks who even have their ballots right with them here tonight. If you don't have your ballots, contact the county auditor's office if you don't have your ballot by tomorrow, and they can make sure they can get that to you. So we know those ballots are due back by November 7th. If you have any questions for me, I've got my contact info in the back of the room. In the hall, I've got some of my sheets out there. My campaign manager, Brandon, is right there. Say hi, Brandon. So if you want to come out and volunteer with us, we've got materials for folks to go out. If you want to talk with your neighbors about this race, we've got some materials out there as well. My priorities are about affordability, as I said, and I look at that as far as affordable housing, access to healthcare, and access to childcare for families. Another thing that's important to me is transparency. In my time in government, I worked in the Senate, I worked for a United States Senator that helped put together a commission to track down taxpayer dollars that were lost in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. That then recouped millions of dollars for taxpayers. Later as an advocate, I helped advocate for a law to make sure that US humanitarian assistance around the world was transparent and accountable for taxpayers. Transparency is an issue that I'll bring into county government if elected. You need to know where your taxpayer dollars are going, and you need to know if those programs are working or not. And you deserve transparency about elections. So my opponent just got some support from fossil fuel backed money this weekend. You may have received a mailer in the mail and think, oh, this is from a candidate. If you do the research, if you go to the Public Disclosure Commission, you'll see who's trying to influence this race. And fossil fuel money is trying to buy a seat on Whatcom County Council. They've tried it in the past. They tried it against St. Paul 4 years ago, and they wasted $160,000. So do your research, figure out who's backing doing this race. You can go to my website, electjohnscanlon.com. You can figure out who's who and what's what, and vote based on your values. Wherever I've worked around the world, around this country, I know that the best solutions are local. So when it comes to the issues you all are dealing with here, I want to listen to you and learn from you about what needs to be done, and then go get to work on Whatcom County Council. So I appreciate your vote by November 7th. Thanks everyone for coming tonight.
Hi, I'm Ben Ellenboss. The question was, who am I and why am I running? Well, I grew up in Linden. I graduated from Linden High School. I went to Western Washington University. The majority of my coursework I did at Huxley College of the Environment. And during that time, I was a commercial pesticide applicator for an agronomy division. 4 years ago, I ran to restore a balance to local politics that I thought was sorely lacking, and I'm running again because there's more work to do. And I'll give you an example of that balance that I'm talking about. It was just presented that fossil fuel dollars are bad, and that the opponent is bad because an employer in our community supported a candidate. Yet I hear the same people saying that these employers here at Cherry Point, we want to support them, and we want to support the jobs that they provide, and we want to support them on their quest for a clean energy transition. So what is it? Is fossil fuel dollars bad? Are these employers bad? Or do we want them here in our community? And that's the balance and perspective that I bring. You'll hear activists tell you all the time, well, we can't have agriculture and clean water. We have to choose one or the other. We can't have industry and clean air. Well, as a farmer and someone who works at the oil refinery and someone who has a degree in natural sciences from Huxley College of the Environment, in the world I live in, we have both, and we have to have both. And that's the perspective I'm going to bring to the council. If you paid attention over the last 4 years, you'll know that I am well known for challenging the status quo. And I'm going to tell you that those of you that are here that are upset about things here in Point Roberts, we are here because of the status quo. So I would challenge you to look at who is supporting the status quo and who is challenging the status quo, and maybe get outside of the norms that you've always followed, because it's been my experience. I started in politics way back on the planning commission with John Lasso in like the 2010s. I was chair of the Charter Review Commission in 2015, and I've been on the council for the last 4 years. It's been my experience that the status quo has not been working. Most of the issues that we have faced, including our drug crisis, our land use policy, the status quo has only served to escalate the problem even further. You'll hear that I vote no quite often, because why would I vote no on spending and policies that are only multiplying our issues. So I firmly believe that a good idea is a good idea, and a bad idea is a bad idea, regardless of where it comes from. It's been my experience over the last 4 years that sometimes if an idea comes from a certain person or a certain council member, it gets shot down. Because we are so banked in our silos. So I would love for everyone to get outside of your silos, to look at good ideas, look at bad ideas, and support people who are gonna support the ideas that you might support. And not get bogged down in this fossil fuels are bad, employers are horrible, people that live in a rural area don't care about the environment. So don't get bogged down in that. Listen for solutions and vote for the folks who show up and represent your positions. And I feel like I've done that over the last 4 years. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us here. It's always a pleasure to be in Point Roberts. My name is Jackie Dexter, and I'm running for Whatcom County Council, District 5. I'm a mother, a wife of 19 years, and a farmer both of land and sea. I have goats, chickens, ducks, sheep, turkeys last year. I hunt and I fish, and I work on the Drayton Harbor Oyster Company farm. I work at about 1 to 5 in the morning right now because we switched to night tides. I am a working mom that knows what it's like to work for working families. Some of the main priorities that I'd like to address is to support the working families. I want to see more affordable childcare. I want to see pre-K programs, affordable housing, workforce housing. I know that that's a lacking here in Point Roberts, and I'd like to work with that. My background is I was born in Anacortes, Washington. I grew up in Skagit Valley. I moved to Wenatchee, Washington. My mom kicked me out when I was 15, so I went through the school of hard knocks in my younger years. And I realized after a life of homelessness and addiction and destitution that I myself am the one that's gonna get me out. And I got up and I went to school, got my grades back up, and I transferred to Western Washington University. I achieved my bachelor's of science in the biology department. I am an environmentalist, but I'm also a real world farmer. I worked in Jaeger Sporting Goods for 5 years, so I know retail pretty well. And then after that, I was like, what else can I do? I'm gonna conquer this world. So I went back to school, because I'm gonna. And I went to fisheries and aquaculture school at Bellingham Tech. And the day after I started the program, I found out I was pregnant with my second child. So I went through fisheries school pregnant. You wanna talk about spawning salmon and working on fish ponds pregnant, I can tell you what that's like. Lots of morning sickness, lots of work. So I'm a hardworking lady. I've been doing it since the day I came out of the womb, and I'm in the boots, always hitting the ground running, and I'm ready to bring what I can in my experience and my lived experience to the council. I want to show that I have gone through all the stages of life and dealing with all the societal issues that we're seeing on the streets. I've been there, and I got myself out, and I want to help those that are in need. I want to be a voice for those that cannot speak for themselves. And I want to support these working families. We all deserve a little help. Times are hard, inflation's high, and we need a little break. So I ask for your vote this year for Whatcom County Council District 5. And if you'd like more information about me, you can find me at peopleforjackiedexter.com. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ben Lazarus. I have a few minutes to think about what I was going to say, still haven't figured it out, so we can get another 20 minutes to think about it. I lived in Point Roberts for 15 years. I recognize a couple of faces in the crowd, not that many. I hid down at Westwood Marine, that was my business, and I'm really sad to see how far it's fallen in my absence. It's kind of a compliment to my leadership and my business abilities that I ran it as well as I did, I think, in the time that I was here. I've got 2 daughters, they're both at Lane High School, they both attended Lane Primary here. I really understand the school district needs from the Point Roberts parent point of view. We loved it when they were little, and actually part of the reason we moved, a big part of the reason we moved, was because of the schooling experience that kids have when they get a little bit older here. So I got involved in the school board race back in April. There was a pretty contentious school board meeting dealing with budget cuts and layoffs and all the rest of it. And I stood up at that meeting to speak in defense of the arts because I think they're a really important part of our kids' educations. And I just didn't want to see them to be the first to get cut, which is kind of typically what happens. As the meeting went on, I wasn't really happy with how things were going. Part of that was the board's fault just for lack of communication, which is something that I want to improve. There were very few people who really understood the workings of the board and what was going on at the meeting. But I wasn't really terribly happy with it. And the thought occurred to me about halfway through, 2/3 of the way through, that I could sit in the back and heckle and complain and point fingers. Or I could put my face forward and offer my services to the community. I mentioned that to the choir teacher, who's a good friend of mine and is hoping to get his endorsement letter out of the end of the paper. He may have missed the deadline, but he certainly wrote a very nice letter for me. But he texted me a couple of days later. I didn't think that this election would happen so soon. I thought it was going to be in 2024. And he sent me a text saying, if you're serious, you've got like the next 10 days is the window to submit your application. So I submitted my application and here I am. Hoping to win your vote to serve on the Blaine School Board District 2 seat. Obviously the only candidate in this room who's lived in Point Roberts, certainly on the school board. So I hope I can earn your votes.
Okay, so all of the candidates were sent a preliminary question. And again, we're gonna go in backwards order this time, because it has to do with everything Point Roberts. The question was, Point Roberts has historically been considered an underserved community. Do you feel that Point Roberts is underserved? Why not? And if yes, what would you do to change that? Again, 2 minutes.
All right, that's one that I've had some time to think about, and as a parent of 2 kids here, I saw both sides of it. In one way, Point Roberts is very well served. Our experience for our kids at Point Roberts Primary was nothing short of phenomenal. They had an excellent education. Mary Edgley and the crew there were outstanding. It was kind of this blended K through 3, and they could learn at the level they needed, the pace they needed. The kids had a great camaraderie. Birthday parties were typically just invite the whole school, and the school bus would stop at whoever kid's house it was, drop off the whole load, and there was your party that came over in the bus. It was great. The school bus ride around to Blaine is surprisingly not that bad in my experience for the kids. If I had a bus that would come to my door every morning, drive me right to work and drop me off 3 minutes before work, I would probably not own a car. I would, it's great, they can sleep, it's wonderful. But where this community is served very badly, and like I said, I actually relocated because of it, and I was just talking with my wife yesterday, as we hosted the cast after party for the Crucible play at our house, which was phenomenal for our kids. Once you get beyond about grade 7, it's a very different experience because you can't participate as a kid in anything extracurricular. You can't go to a friend's house, you can't have friends over. If you want to stay for choir or band or theater or sports, whatever, suits your child, they miss the bus and it's going to be 2 hours of driving for parents. And considering how many tax dollars per student Point Roberts contributes, I really think that our kids are underserved there. And I will be pushing really hard. I want to vote on 5, but I will be pushing hard to make even an economic argument to bring back some enrollment, which is where our school district is suffering, to get the late bus running again. Because that existed before my kids, and it died, a few years before my kids got to the point of needing it. And I think that would really equalize things a lot so that students who are living here can have the opportunity to participate in all the programs that they really should have the opportunity to participate in without mom or dad making whatever it is, 2 hours of driving, hour and a half of driving round trip to pick them up. So that's my perspective on the well-served and the underserved.
and what I would be pushing to change for Point Roberts.
I do feel that Point Roberts has been underserved, and I think that I could definitely bring a lot of services to you guys and be a voice for you. Some of the ways that I think we can address that is in 2025 is the comprehensive plan needs to be updated. And I would like to make sure that in every aspect, in every chapter, that Point Roberts is on the map, is mentioned, and we have a real strategic plan in place of how to build you guys into a more sustainable community. I believe in sustainable Whatcom County. I want to work for workers and families, and that starts with every single kind of service you can think of. Water, septic, libraries, schools, transportation, affordability, workforce. I want to help you guys get those workforce folks back here and bring back some of those businesses that were closed down during COVID. I know that was a huge issue with you all. And I'd like to work with water. I'm a bit of a water person myself, working in water. I also volunteer weekly to monitor water quality in the Blaine and Birch Bay communities. And I'd like to extend that further and making sure that people are up here monitoring the water quality as I do with the harmful algal blooms and the PSP for shellfish digging, and water retention. I know that you guys might not be impacted as much by the droughts, maybe, with your water table has been rising possibly with the lack of use of the aquifer. I know you guys have had the landfills that were next to the aquifer done in like the 90s. That's a huge impact. I want to be able to bring in federal dollars to get that taken care of. You guys should be able to use your water and not have to get it from BC. I'd like to be able to establish rain barrels and water retention programs so you guys aren't having to worry about tapping into those waters for the summertime during times of drought. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I am the woman for it. I got the salt and I got the energy. Thank you.
So I guess it all depends on your perspective on this one. I would say that you are very well served because you serve yourself. Is the county serving you? Absolutely not. Like I said, in 2012, 2013, I was on the planning commission, and one of our big items was the Point Roberts sub-area plan. And this is a different area. It just is. It's different from all aspects of the rest of Whatcom County. And as such, you guys should be and need to be treated differently because your needs are different. And I've recognized that for a long time. You're not the only community in the 5th district that's like that. Lummi Island is very much the same, as well as Birch Bay. Birch Bay would be the 4th largest city if they incorporated, yet they're an unincorporated area. During COVID, I was out front in trying to help your community stay livable. I know that my opponent said that this is the first step in conquering the world. Being the 5th district representative on the county council, but I'll tell you what, I have never felt more powerless than being on the council. But like I said, you guys do a wonderful job of serving yourself because you were so engaged. And your fire chief had shared with me that during COVID, he was able to get a hold of Canadian officials to advocate for your special needs down here. And that's amazing to me because I tried so hard to get a hold of anyone in Canada with the Canadian government, Canadian representatives, their border services, and not one of them would return my phone calls. So I'm very grateful that you have a chief that is out here helping you. I advocated for financial help for your grocery store to stay open. But like I said, a lot of the issues that we see in Point Roberts are because Whatcom County has been so unresponsive to your needs. One of the things that I would like to help with is the land use policy and making sure that your sub-area plans fit your need. And often I have found that the stagnation that we see in these communities that are underserved, like Point Roberts or Maple Falls, is exactly that. It's stagnation that we have created because we are planning based off of a created stagnation. So anyway, I would like to talk about that.
So on the question, I've heard from a lot of you about this, that you all feel underserved. So when it comes to what to do and how to help, it's about listening. And it's about being out there, being active in the community, coming, spending time in this building, spending time in the community. And that's something that I've done throughout my career. So my first job out of college, I worked for a governor and I ran the governor's schedule. And I was the person that people would call when they wanted to get the governor to come to an event. And I was the one to respond and put things together. So I heard from county commissioners and local elected officials and pastors and community organizations, and just folks who wanted the governor to come to their community. So if elected to county council, you don't have your own individual staff, you just do that work yourself. And that's a lot of what I've been doing on the campaign. So that job helped prepare me for this, and I feel well prepared for this role. So if you contact me on county council starting in January for a need, I'll be the one to respond. And I plan on coming to communities across the county if elected, coming to the community centers, the libraries, coming to small businesses and spending time listening to folks. So that's what I'll do if elected, because like I said before, I've always found that the best solutions are local solutions. You all know what's best for your community. And so I'll come listen. I've also been an advocate for a large chunk of my career, organizing people to go talk with elected officials. So I also have been on that other side of the table and know that the best elected officials are those who listen, who do their research, who gain feedback, and then put together solutions with the community, not just taking solutions from the outside. So I'll be there to listen if elected. Thank you.
So regarding feeling underserved, I think that's a common thing that I've heard over the last couple of years of attending all the county council meetings. So like I shared with you earlier, I'm from Sumas, Washington, a very different community, but a very small community. And when I listen at the county council meetings, I'm typically hearing from a county council that 4 of the 7 reside in Bellingham and often have Bellingham-centric perspectives. That doesn't mean that they're always wrong. It just means that when it comes to serving rural communities, you need to be able to understand, having lived and having seen what communities like yours are able to do regarding resiliency and being self-sufficient, to know that your needs are going to be different than Bellingham's needs, or your needs are going to be different than Acme or Lummi. And I don't disagree with my opponent. Part of being a good public servant is listening. I've been listening as a community member for over 2 years for no other intention, but to come and be a voice for the flood victims in my community. Because oftentimes they were so disheartened that they weren't being listened to, that I would just pick up the gauntlet for them and go forward and speak on their behalf. I've been showing up as a community member in service of people my whole adult life here, whether it was in coaching and mentoring, whether it was being on my PTA, whether right now I'm a mentor for high school girls. I don't have a public service record that has paid me to do what I do. I've done it strictly because I care about people. I want the area that we live in to be affordable for all of us, for us to feel safe, for to have economies that thrive, and for our children and our grandchildren to have some of the same experiences that some of us felt here when we were kids, that we haven't felt here in a long time. So, thank you.
I totally agree that Point Roberts is a unique community. And this is not something that I realize now, I realized in 2018. If you remember, we came here with PRCAC and everybody was talking about 2072. How many of you know of 2072 code? Good, that's good. So the 2072 code is created just for Point Roberts because it's a unique community. And this thing was brought up with my predecessor a couple of times and wanted to change in the code. I said, okay, this is what we will do when I became county executive. I will give you the 2072, you rewrite it. You rewrite it with one voice, give it back, I'll take it to the council, we'll change it. Didn't happen. Then there was some issues with the PRCAC. I don't have to just come up and talk about these things. You guys live here, you know that. When we had a meeting at that restaurant up there by the ocean, I said, you are in charge of your destiny. You as a community get together and sign on a piece of paper, this is the 5 things you want, and I want PRCAC to sign everything and give it to me. We are still working on that. I have worked with the chief, I know he had some issues with the fire district, money. The rural fire district are not getting any money. And I took that issue with the EOB, that the oversight board for all the fire departments to get them more money from EMS. And I got slapped on my hands because the vested interests want to keep the money in those districts and not come out to the rural districts. You know, fire district 14, levy failed. And then the fire district 21 did. Okay. All 2 minutes now.
You're good.
It goes fast. I'm at 38 points. Number 1. You are challenged by a host of many problems up here. And I've learned a bit more as I go through this campaign. Infrastructure is a real issue. I know that Tyee Road needs some additional sewer lines and whatnot. That's how you're gonna, suck off the.
We don't have sewer.
The construction pipe, I mean. You need to be able to have stormwater. Thanks. You need to have some stormwater along Tyee Road. You've got a seawall that I think is failing, that's what I'm hearing. That might be anywhere from $3.5 to $3.75 million. We need to figure out the marina. We need to figure out why you don't have a lighthouse still. I know that was 2 administrations ago. $500,000 donation and it turned into 0. These are some of the things that I know that are important to Point Roberts, even though my numbers might not be, up to date or otherwise. Other things are just the maintenance. The last time that we were here, we heard you talking about the overgrowth and the typical maintenance from Public Works, some of the parks and rec issues. I heard from someone that you can't even strain your own soils because, different border issues and such. These are the things that, from my perspective, need to be placed into a strategic plan. The county executive is responsible for creating a strategic plan for the entire county. It means all of the precincts, all the districts, all of you. I don't think that's been happening. Anything north of Smith Road, like Hannah was saying, doesn't really get a lot of attention. You talk to the rural communities of Maple Falls, and talk to some others out there. They're just not getting the same attention because Bellingham consumes all the resources. I live outside of Bellingham. I live in Linden. I know some of the things that you're challenged by because I live on the border. I think the most important thing is for you all to come together with some type of formal commission, committee, whatever you want to call it, and we start talking about solving problems. The platitude that I talk to is all about less talk, more action. We really need to get to brass tacks, and we also need to get to the point. We also need to get to the point where you're getting things done and you're moving the ball forward. I work for a company that has $1 billion of client revenues under management. And all we do every day, all day, is build out 5-year growth and scalability roadmaps for these companies. We can do the same thing for your businesses and the same thing for your precinct.
Thank you, Dan.
2 minutes.
I got a lasso.
Obviously, Point Roberts is serviced by our resident deputy program. Currently, you only have one of those deputies here right now. That was a result of obviously COVID, things slowing down significantly here in Point Roberts, but also starting in 2020, we saw a lot of retirements. Legislation changed in 2021. We had some other people leave. So we're in the process of replacing those vacancies. We also received 5 additional FTEs this year and 5 additional FTEs next year from the county council. That's never happened in my 29 years at the sheriff's office. So we're slowly increasing the staffing so that we can better serve some of the remote communities like Point Roberts. Similar to Lummi Island, you have challenges. When there's no ferry, we can't get out there. So we have to have plans. When the border closes during COVID, we have to rely on working jointly with Canada to get to you. So we have to have contingency plans for emergencies so we can bring people here by helicopter. We train for that. We got a new 27-foot boat to come here if we need to and load people up. The Coast Guard used to bring us back and forth, especially if somebody was arrested. You probably know we can't drive them through Canada, so we have to bring them by boat. Coast Guard stopped doing that, so we had to do it ourselves. So those are some of the challenges. So I want to replace that position, hopefully here in the next 6 months to a year. It takes a year to get a new deputy on board with training and the background process. I'd like to bring traffic up here for emphasis and events. I know when the officer is here by themselves, I've been here for the show and shines at the breakers. When I'm there by myself and there's a fight and the 2 deputies were down on Maple Beach or Lily Point, it's not a good feeling. So I want to make sure that our deputies here feel safe and you feel safe and that we're trying to provide the best services we can for you. I know you don't have a lot of crime up here, but 1 or 2 burglaries, that impacts this community. And that shatters that sense of security, and that's impactful to you. So we want to make sure we're responsive, and then emergency management continue to work. We have natural hazard mitigation plans for tsunamis, earthquakes, eruptions, coastal flooding, all those kind of things. Thank you.
Well, I think my experience from talking to people here in Point Roberts, people emailing me, people calling me, is that some of the issues, especially around law enforcement, these are not new issues. These issues have been going on for years. And in fact, my opponent, he's been in leadership for 15 years in the sheriff's department. Those plans should already be in place. So what we really need to do is take a look at the amount of deputies that we're deploying in other places. If we know that one deputy here is gonna go on vacation, or that deputy has a planned off time, is gonna be sick, we need to plan for that. I mean, these are things that we can plan for. In fact, if you think about speeding here, several people call me and I say, gosh, people are speeding. I haven't seen a deputy in 3 weeks. I haven't seen a deputy in a month. This is a public safety issue. And as your sheriff, if elected, one of the things that I want to do is make sure that we're coming to community meetings, make sure that we're working with the fire district to make sure that we're here consistently and not just in an election season. So I really want to work with everyone and have a plan that should already be here, but it's not. Thank you.
Okay, so we are about to open it up to the floor for questions. When you do, I want you to raise your hand. Mr. Bill will come and tell you when it is time to speak. If you can please state who you are directing your question to, and then allow the answer, and then we'll move on to the next person. I will actually start.
Oh, can I pick you?
You're gonna pick me.
Okay.
Okay. So this question is for those running for county executive. Point Roberts has always been designated as rural by the US Census Bureau. In 2020, they looked for agglomeration for areas such as Point Roberts. In July of 2023, we have been redesignated by the federal government as urban. As county executive, will you ensure, and how will you ensure, that the budget going forward will ensure that Point Roberts is given the infrastructure required?
What was the last thing you said?
How will you ensure the budget, or will you ensure the budget includes the infrastructure required in Point Roberts? For the urban requirements by Washington State under the Administrative Code of Washington?
Yeah, as the 2020 census happened, it takes that long for them to change all the rules and everything. And this is very recent that we have gotten it to, because we're getting as Whatcom County outsourced. so that you know that the population, once we reach 250, we also not rural county anymore. So that's another thing we are working with legislature. There is a bill in the legislature that will extend to 2054 because we are still under 250,000. And if this bill passes in January or this coming session, then we will be grandfathered till 2054. So we worked the last session, it never came to the vote, but it was supported by both chairs on both sides of House and Senate. And we hope that this time it will get a vote and we will secure that position. Now, as far as Point Roberts is concerned, we are concerned about Birch Bay as well, because that is very much urban as well. And right now, there's a petition going on, which you guys have talked about it as well, to become a city. Actually, Birch Bay is actively have formed a society. I attended the meeting with them. I encouraged them. We laid out all the legal process and procedure for them to make their own determination if they want to be city. And we told them very clearly that if you want to be the city, we will not come in your way. We will not stand in your way. That's a decision you have to take, and we will be there to work. Same thing is with you. If you ever decide to do that, you can incorporate yourself. Now, about that, this is a process. We have not received official communications yet through the federal government. It's the newspaper ads and things are coming in. Once we receive that, we are going to reply as total county what areas we would like to designate as urban, so that we can get extra budget through the state and some federal dollars to bring it to this community. Thank you.
How many people in this room think that you're urban? How many think you're rural?
Some.
I think it's all somewhere in between.
Where do most of your utilities come from? Where are your construction materials coming from?
Nowhere.
How the hell are we gonna build an urban Point Roberts if we can't get construction materials, if Canada is providing utilities and such, and we can't even bring trucks up from Whatcom County across an international border? I think that the answer to this, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, I think that we need to get a variance, and Point Roberts has to be designated something different. You decide. You're Americans. You have property here. You have vested interests. You are the folks who determine your own destiny, not some federal government out in Washington, D.C. that has no clue or idea what you put up with on a daily basis. This is what I'm talking about. We need to bring people together. We need to continue to write these letters that I've been receiving, by the way, this week, to finally get the representation that you need from your county government, from your state legislators, and also from your federally elected representatives to show them how special, unique, and precious Point Roberts is. This is not what they're saying it is just because they look at the 49th parallel and say, well, I guess so. Where's your closest military installation? This is not that. And I think it's really important that we do go and get federal, state, and local funding to give you the tax dollar return on investment that you believe in. Last count, and my numbers might be incorrect, but I thought you had a taxable base of around $1.5 billion. If you look at all the property, all the structures, all the land. It could be wrong. $1 billion. Okay, there you go. Inflation. So you've got a taxable base of $1 billion. How much money are you getting on return for that investment?
At least 1,000.
Between $0 and $1,000, that's what you're getting back. I think this is hogwash. I think that you really need to get the right representation in office. Had 4 years, my opponent did, to do it. What has he done for you lately? You have to ask yourself this question. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
All right. Hi, I'm Dee. this room pretty much knows me. I live here full-time. My kids, my husband and I are all dual. My husband and I both own a business here. I have a middle schooler, a high schooler. Before COVID, they were in Canada. They are now in Blaine. So I do understand that I am the turnout bus, by the way. We just finished 10 weeks of basketball practice that ended at 5 p.m., which means I have Monday to Friday that I have to drive to Blaine every single day because my kids can't come home on the bus. I don't actually have a question. I have something for all of you to think about if you want to represent our community. We've had one sheriff for a very long time, way before COVID. Trent is wonderful, don't get me wrong, we all love him to death, and he understands how our community works. But there's money there for a second sheriff, but we've never been given one. We've asked, we've begged, we've pleaded. We've asked for a turnout bus for 20 years now through the school district. They won't give it to us, there's no money. We did come to you with Set Hall with our 5 things. It was our dock. It was clearing the ramp at Lighthouse Park. It was trying to deal with our flooding. There was numerous things that we came to. Every time we ask for something in our community, we are told there's no money for it. Yet you just stated we pay over $1 billion a year in property taxes alone.
That's our valuation.
Or evaluation. Sorry, that is our valuation. Every time we ask for something, we are told there's no money. We're kind of tired of it. And no, we do take care of ourselves. We know that. We're good at it. That's how I know most of the people in this room, because I've probably helped clean their gutters or got their groceries when it snowed, because that's what we do. That's what small communities do. We don't look at it as being unique. It's our day-to-day life. But we're sick and tired of being told there's no money.
Bravo.
He is fabulous. We do not have our community without Christopher.
I'll answer your question, even though you didn't say one. I will say that when I was told there was no money for your, for some of your flooding issues and stormwater, which was exacerbated by flooding, the heavy rains that we all saw. When I was told that there was no money for that, when I was told by the Public Works Director that there was no money for that, I pointed out to him that there has never been a budget amendment on the Whatcom County Council that I haven't seen pass. Check me. There has never been one budget amendment that has not passed. First go. So when people tell you there's no money, it's because the money's there. And when I was told we couldn't get the money through the Public Works, what did I do?
Made a phone call and made some emails, and there was
Economic development money. I helped secure you guys EDI funding to get some of these public works issues taken care of in the future. There is money, and you guys are paying way more in than you're getting back. And there's never once been a budget amendment since I've been on the council for the last 4 years that hasn't passed. So priorities need to be put where they need to be, and I have supported the funding for the things that you guys need. Just make sure that the administration that you elect next looks at it that way.
Oh, you have another comment?
Yeah, I would like to say that, we need to get your property taxes back here. And if that's an incorporation decision or an act or a variance that we could have,
We don't have the population to incorporate.
then we need to look at county council and talk to them and say, hey, we need to get these funds back here to where it needs to go, into your infrastructure, to continue supporting your stormwater and address with make sure everyone's up to date with their septic systems, et cetera. I think you guys need those funds back here. So I will work very diligently. And the last 4 years could have been maybe some adjustments made with that. And I will continue to do some work if elected and make sure those property taxes are here because you guys need that fund. Thank you.
So my question is related to trying to help ourselves, as it were. The internet's pretty bad. I'm looking at potentially starting an internet co-op here on the point. And part of that is going to involve working to get the necessary permits, approvals, et cetera. There's a bunch of county and state and some federal stuff involved in getting that permitted, getting polls where polls are available, things like that. Is that something that, as a representative, any of you would be willing to fight for Point Roberts being able to get that kind of thing permitted?
Let me address that. If you remember that in 2019, before the COVID, I came in here and I said that this is one of the urgent need is the broadband. And we worked up a proposal with 4 or 5 residents from here, Prakash Sundaresan, and because he's the Microsoft vice president and very knowledgeable about that, and Bob Hillman. And we got $250,000 for Point Roberts to do that system. And whatever time I have. So we worked it out, and then come the state and they said, we want only fiber, not wireless. Because to me, giving a Chevy to somebody so that they can go back and forth is better than you wait 5 years, we'll give you a Cadillac. Then first time I signed the sport application for Wilby Telephone. They got $2.5 million, they didn't even start. They came back to me again, second time, they scored another application. We said, no way, I did not sign any sport letters for them. They still, because they are in the other rural area, they still got $2 more million. And when we had a meeting with them, we said, when are you gonna start? 2026. They have the government money, more than $2 million for Point Roberts. They would not start till 2026. We talked to the state. They said, yes, they have submitted their work plan and they will work according to the work plan. Then we said, okay, this is not gonna work. So we had Port of Bellingham and PUD make a consortium and do in all rural areas, not just Point Roberts, all rural areas. And many of you, PRCAC, have read all those emails back and forth. And they came up, they got now $3.5 million. And they are starting Point Roberts hard fiber in early 2024. So that's the background story on this. Now, if you want to start a co-op and everything, because they're gonna run fiber in front of your house, not connect. So we badly need an ISP who will serve Point Roberts. The internet service provider, somebody who actually bills you, gets you money. We just put the fiber and leave and then let people connect it. We don't even charge for that because the state is paying for that. So that is the little conundrum. We can talk offline about that, how we can accomplish. Thank you. Next question, please.
First, I want to say thank you for running. This is a lot of work. I don't think you get enough credit for all the time and energy you're putting in, so. Every day we're hearing about new programs that are coming out through the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, and many of them are targeted through the Justice 40 to underserved communities. I want to ask the executive members that are running at large, what would you do for Point Roberts to get us the designation of Justice 40 underserved communities? What would that do for us, and where would we target the funds?
Member at large?
Member at large.
That's all large. Yeah, I think we're both saying the same thing. I would be interested in learning more. I'm not familiar with the Justice 40 issue. Maybe stuff all it is. But I'd be interested in learning more.
Yeah. We have made an application for infrastructure job, IT, RT, or whatever that fund is. And we still haven't looked at our application. You know how federal government is. We have been talking to Mr. Larson, we've been talking to both the senators, and of course, so much dysfunction going on in Washington, DC. Nobody is looking at anything. your and my business is not getting done. There's just like chaos there. And this chaos didn't just start like 2-3 months ago. It's been going on since this last election. And it's very difficult. The bigger Chicagos of the world, the Bostons of the world, the Seattles of the world, they are the first one who get money. And all the rural counties, like we have 5,000 counties in the United States. And a lot of them, majority of them are under 250,000. And it's not that I'm making up an excuse that that's how the system works, to get those money into the pipeline to bring it to our community. We have so much need in whole Whatcom County, not only Point Roberts, but that's something is beyond us, but it's not that lack of effort or lack of us making applications and trying to find the money.
Yeah, I don't have a question, I have a comment, because I'm hearing you're talking about extending something out to 2054, and this isn't happening, and that isn't happening. And as an example of all the attention we get, we've been asking for a dog park for 2 years. And you came here a few months ago and told us that will not even be considered at this point till you draw up a new plan in 2025. We have money. We want it spent on us.
I like it, because I want to tell the council, any email you guys send, it goes to the council also. It's saying that, make an amendment. Council doesn't read your emails. If dog park application and all the emails are they're going to the council. They hold the purse strings. It's not that county executive is holding back. I don't want to tell anybody. Everybody knows about it.
But again, you told us to come to you with ideas.
Yes.
The community could stand behind.
Yes.
A dog park is something that we could stand behind as much as I don't even want one, but. We can stand behind it and only agree to it because it's something we've been fighting for and asking. You say 5 items, and we did. We asked for our dog, we asked for our ditches, we've asked for a dog park. We came to you as a community with ideas. And every time you have some excuse as to why it will not happen.
Okay, you have liberty to say what you feel and what your perception is. I totally accept that. But I think that saying that you guys have come up unanimously with anything is a little bit far stretched.
Hold on.
I know, because nobody will tell you that, because I will. Because at my own peril, I will tell that. Because this is not something new for me. I have come here for 10 years every time, and my words are again to you. You guys come up with a unanimous decision with one voice. Council will act, I will act, but it hasn't quite happened. I know you may not like to do that, and I didn't want to go bring out and all this in this forum, but there is a lot of history. And I'm not new to that. I've been there more than 10 years.
And we are not a voting body.
Pardon me?
Our community is not a voting body to make a unanimous decision for anything. Are we supposed to hold an independent election, vote on a dog park?
No, I'm not saying that you hold independent election on the dog park.
But you're saying unanimous.
Means that the community voice comes in unanimous. When I get 5 emails per thing, I get another 3, we don't want it. Don't spend money on that, this is waste of money.
You're next.
You know, you see that one side of that, I see both sides of that.
We've been without a working dock at Point Roberts for 14 years. My name is John Russell, I lived down here for 23 years, I'm a dual citizen and I vote. I've exchanged many emails, many proposals for a replacement dock at Lighthouse Park. Nothing has come forward. We've been without a dock for 14 years. Everybody agreed that it was a good economic driver to have a dock in Point Roberts, like what we had before it was taken out of service. If you go down there now, there's nothing there except the pilings that were put there when the old creosote piles were taken out, so the job's half done. Now, I got a quote from someone who could replace it that was 1/3 the amount of the replacement dock, which failed after what, a week? $300,000 dock?
The lake dock.
As far as dog parks are concerned, the priority should be a dock.
See, you can see it right now.
There's enough
Okay.
money for all of us.
Because this is like county executive forum, because I think you have a lot of pent up things to tell the county executive, and I take it, I'm not shy about that. Yeah, no, I wanted to answer the dock.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We had a floating dock which became unfunctional because the way the the ocean brings sand and the gravel, that it needs to be dredged all the time. And that was taken out. The best option was that we should put a dock at the marina. And there is a place, see, there's a place for the county, county bought it, and there's a place for that, and we wanted to work, but everybody says, somebody says, no, just put that dock back there, and somebody says that I think, I'm saying everybody in your face, the best place for the dock is at the marina. We own the land, it is very good access, it will be protected, it will not fill up every year, so you have to dredge it again.
And how are we supposed to know about this?
Hang on,
It's the first I've ever heard it.
Yeah.
hold on. Who wants to? Go ahead, you, then. I'll call on you, Caleb, this gentleman right here.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, this is all very exciting. At 86, my heart can barely stand it. An example of how well served we are is the gullies in my neighborhood have been cut, trimmed, so that water could flow in them. The first time since I lived here in '02. So we had flooding because a main broke and several basements were flooded. That didn't speed up anything. That was some years ago. I noticed that a lot of people like to take walks and exercise along the side of the roads. Well, they mostly have to be on the road because the sides of the road don't accept more than one skinny person. It's just unnecessary for me to list these things. It would be so simple to improve our situation. At least I have noticed that some people are beginning to walk toward the oncoming traffic instead of with the, never mind. People can't read traffic laws.
No, I just had a comment. How are we supposed to know about this dock proposal that the county owns land for? Like, it was never, there was no article in the newspaper. How would we know that you have an option plan to Lighthouse Park dock?
I think it's a very known fact, maybe I don't know if everybody knows or not, but I think most of the other people know that county owns the land. And I personally came here 3 years ago during COVID, and we met at the marina. Maybe a few people.
You and a private group.
Sorry that everybody could not get that information, but this space is known for many years. It's not like last 3 or 5 years. That property is owned by.
So I am the chair of the PRCAC.
Okay.
I know that piece of property, I know there's an easement at the marina, we brought it up year after year.
Yeah.
There has never been an email from Whatcom County Parks, Public Works, DDS, the executive's office, anything to tell us that there's been any discussions about doing that.
I think I beg to differ, but I will go check these.
I
know personally coming and talking about that in this community, that that we had the easement, and that property is 15 years or 20 years.
Yeah, we know that we've known that the easement, we
Okay.
didn't know that there was the thought of a project.
Thank you.
Am I supposed to call on you?
Well, I was just gonna
Mr.
address
Ben.
the, I was gonna
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I think, what you bring up is a very valid point. We hear it all over the county, is how is the county communicating with you? And quite honestly, it's very apparent that we're not at all effective. We'll have a public hearing on something that's incredibly important, and no one will show up to speak. And so I've been, saying, hey, nobody's here. We have a problem, and it's our problem. It's not the community's problem. So let's push this hearing off. Let's get it in the newspaper. Let's get it everywhere. The problem is that nobody's reading the Bellingham Herald. I'm sure you guys aren't reading the Bellingham Herald. And that's the only place that Whatcom County communicates. So one of the things that I've helped do is everybody's, not everybody, but a lot of people on social media, we're on Nextdoor, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. So what I've been having the Public Works Department, now our council office has done that. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram account where we're gonna try our darndest to communicate with folks where they're at, instead of shoving the information out to an obsolete form of communication.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
While you're still here.
Sure.
So if that's the medium that you're talking about, sacred, Bellingham, whatever.
Herald,
or whatever,
yep.
All right, so is there any process in place that you would notify or talk to at any length with Pat Rowe?
So that,
The APB?
so that's part of the issue, is that we have a public participation plan that's in place, that's mandated by the Growth Management Act and certain other avenues of how we officially communicate. And the problem is that that's just a baseline. And so while all we've ever done is the baseline, we need to go above and beyond that. We're starting to do that now. John Lasso, every time he emails, tags Pat Rowe. Those are very interesting emails that come across. But yes, it is Whatcom County's issue.
Right. But
It is not your issue.
there's so many different
It
places.
is on us
Like
to
social
fix this,
media.
absolutely.
And I got that, but one of the mainstays of this place of communication is
Is
the
that
APB.
one, yeah.
You know, if you're gonna go, okay, what do we do, who do we call? Well, you can say Nextdoor, you could do e-post, you could whatever, that's all great, put it on Facebook. If you have an APB and people read that, and it's like a Bible, that's the first people you call. Because if you wanna do is like we used to say at the bank, post it in a conspicuous place,
Right.
that's pretty conspicuous.
Yep. I will say one thing, and my wife's gonna say, shut up.
We're not allowed to say that.
Hush your mouth. My wife will say, hush your mouth. Hopefully Pat Grubb understands what you guys want to hear, and will publish some of the things that I know come across his desk, so.
Send it to them,
Well, I'm not saying that we do a great job of communicating, but I do know that things come across his desk. And whether he prints it or doesn't is not up to me.
Ben, it's like asking for a kiss, come on.
Yeah.
Right? Hang on, John, and then you. John.
Okay, John Upsted, clearly we're a rural community, and a lot of our needs in terms of government are rural. But I would also ask how many communities of our size are within a half an hour drive of a major international airport. So you cross the border, you're in Metro Vancouver, and we access many of our services there. Any kind of reciprocity agreement with the municipality of Delta, like, so we don't have to pay non-resident rates when we use their pool and things like that, would be helpful. I have a question though for the sheriff's department. We can use technology. And I know photo enforcement is controversial, but if there's no sheriffs, even if the photo enforcement isn't writing tickets, just measuring people's speed and reminding the driver of how fast they're going, could be helpful, and I want your feelings on that. And then also in terms of being proactive to prevent crime, what kind of measures would you take as sheriff in an effort to prevent crime from happening in the first place?
Sure. To your point, there is money for that second deputy. The problem is the staffing. And I know the fire chief is gonna potentially run into that same issue. You've got a levy that's gonna pass, so, you have to have the bodies to provide the services. So we are working on building that capacity, and I fully intend, as your sheriff, to reinstitute that when we can do that. As far as what we're gonna do to deter crime, is part of it is just that visible presence. And I've heard somebody talk about, we haven't seen a deputy work in traffic, things like that. One of the best ways you can deter crime, and we can certainly talk to, I know Trent's up here, but it's much easier to work when you have a partner to work with, and it's safer for them. And especially on the weekends, when you guys get a lot of that influx of traffic or the holiday weekends. So certainly would do that. And then as far as the photo radar, I think that's a good idea. There's also automatic license plate readers that we can use to, if there's a burglary or crime, we may not be here, but we can look at that time frame and see a license plate and hopefully have a lead on a suspect, because a lot of time burglaries happen and they're not discovered till a day or two later, especially if some of them were vacation homes, things like that. So I think the technology is good, but like you said, that's a conversation we need to have with the community and see what you want. And I know when they put red light cameras and speed devices in Bellingham, they ended up pulling back. They had the technology, but the community didn't support it. I think it was a good idea, but it has to be something that everybody agrees on, or at least the majority agrees on, to keep you safe. So we will continue to build the services. Like I said, we have plans during emergencies to bring people up here. I just sent a couple folks up here to deal with somebody that was armed and threatening people out of the marina within the last week or two. So we will continue to do that. And then as far as we send our press releases, I believe the All Points Bulletin, Northern Light is on that when the sheriff's office pushes out information. So if that's not happening, please let me know and I can fix that.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I just want to expand on what my opponent said. In terms of the license plate readers, you can actually have those static in certain areas. But what's important about that is, someone talked about the speed. So you have to make sure that you have people readily available to take a look at that data. But also with being proactive, what I would do as sheriff is I would make sure that we had a few deputies trained in crime prevention through environmental design. And when you're trained in that, you can hold classes within the community and workshops to talk about how to better prepare your community, your property, your business, to make sure that it's, the bushes are cut, to make sure that the lighting is right. So when officers have that training, they'll come out and do a free assessment of your property or your business to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to prevent crime. So again, it's about community engagement, it's about being proactive, and it's about being consistent. So, thank you.
Cat's here. I'm Cat. That's right. First of all, I do have a question for the county executive, and would-be county executive, but we appreciate that hears the ears of all of you here. And first of all, thanks for being here. Thanks for seeing us. Thanks for wanting to listen. And we do think that we come with one voice, and we bring it pretty loudly. Often we're like a family, and we have little disputes within ourselves, amongst ourselves. But when we bring you something as simple as a dog park, it's a fence, as our Taxpayers Association said. It's a little half-acre fence. And we write, the proposal for it. Very professional, I know, I wrote it. But I sat on the PRCAC, the Citizens Advisory Committee. They were all in favor of it. The Taxpayers Association was all in favor of it. We scoped in the community, and we had 12 pages of written comments, 99% of them in favor of it. People come to the meetings and they say, dog park. It's a stupid little thing. But we're just saying, hey, give us something. Toss us a bone. Even if we just put a fence like we did in Delta.
It's a metaphor.
It is a metaphor. I got it. This was a $50,000 budget for something we want on county land at Lighthouse Park. It won't interfere with any environmental issues. I'm a wildlife biologist, I spend a lot of time looking at that. We have our aging community, we have dogs that don't get exercise because their owners are older and it's hard to get out, so it's really nice to have a place to go. We have a problem with dogs off leash. We need to have some place to tell people you can take them safely.
Even the dogs agree.
Even the dogs agree, that's right. So this is a tiny thing, we're just saying like, yeah, work on the big stuff, plan, that's wonderful, we want you to do that. We want the 2-year, 3-year, 5-year plans. We want federal monies, state monies, more county dollars to come here. But in the meantime, toss us a bone, let us know you see us. We come to all these meetings year after year after year. And frankly, I left the PRCAC because it's just advisory, we just told them what they want, and they kind of go, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating for us to even say, like, organize yourselves, because when we do organize, I don't feel like it goes far enough. So my question, because there should be a question, I'm sorry, is for the executive and the would-be executive. What can you bring us, not 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years from now, but in the next year? Is there something you can do for us, either a dog park or a dock or a seawall or something that says, yes, you hear us? I'm gonna say, can you bring it?
I want to get an answer first.
Yeah, the short answer is the county executive has the financial authority up to $40,000. How much is your half-acre area fence?
30,000 tops.
There you go.
Thank you. Did you want to answer?
Yeah, sure. Actually, Bennett Knox came, I don't know who he met, and and a few people, as far as I was concerned, I told him that go and build it. Now, there was another issue. A lot of people wanted at Lily Point Park, or that we have half acre, or
No.
we own the land there, and then a lot of people wanted, no. The objections we got was that the Lighthouse Park is a showpiece, don't build a dog park there. I mean, you know, that's the opinion I got. And I have given all.
It's okay talking over.
Let me finish, you will have your time, and that's what, but Bennett knows that, that we should go ahead and build the dog park. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So, that's a dog park. My brother is a Labradoodle, so I understand the importance of dog parks. And we have one in our area, and it was such a wonderful place for my mom and my dad to be able to go, especially during times of isolation, just to be able to get out and walk and get fresh air. And but you said something at the very end that is one of the reasons why I actually decided to run for this position. You said you finally just quit, like you just finally just walked away and you just quit. And one of the things that I hear in small communities is that they're just giving up, even bringing their ideas forward because they don't feel like they're being heard. One of the things that I was talking about is just restoring trust in local government, especially for small communities. So I just want to know that stuck with me when you said that. So don't.
Bennett, you're next.
First thing with the dog park, when Bennett Knox came up here, he said that they would consider it, but they would not consider it until they work on the 5-year plan. He doesn't want to wait another 2 years for that. So that's the problem, and it can be done right away with the money that the county has. So that's what you're looking at right now. The county has to act now instead of waiting 2 years off. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick is the county doesn't really communicate well with this community here. And I've seen on Nextdoor, we've had county health and emergency services. They're the only ones who really put out stuff on Nextdoor here. But the rest of the county agencies, nothing. And that's where a lot of people use that, and they use e-post, and they use the all-point bulletin. So the county really has to communicate with this community, and they're not doing it.
Who's got another question? I've already called on, who's got a question other than those 3 people that I've already called on? Come on.
Who's got who's got a question?
I just have to say something, Seth, Paul, is, when you say that you're getting conflicting, messages, you have very clearly said the only people you're gonna listen to is PRAC. PRCAC, but clearly you're listening to somebody else, and who is that somebody else? Is it the Chamber of Commerce? I mean, we don't really have a Chamber of Commerce here, because they don't follow national protocol, and they have private meetings, and they have no membership. So I'm just very curious, what is the conflict? Because we're, understand there is no conflict. That we have full faith in PRAC. We have gathered ourselves together and make sure that they are the ones that communicate with you.
Yeah.
And to hear that, is just, every time you come, you say there's conflict.
Yeah.
And there is no conflict here.
Okay.
We are united now.
Okay. I think there's a saying in Indian culture that the tree which has fruits gets the most stones cast at it. Because I'm the incumbent and I have to answer, and I'm glad. I'm not saying that you should not ask me, you should ask me, and I should explain. I think what is that I have told that dog park, I got it clear from PRCAC on the broadband. I got clear from PRCAC, and we want broadband at whatever cost, whatever happens. We immediately applied for that. $250,000 was not enough to do anything. And then we put another $300,000 from EDI fund to augment the $250,000, but they said still not enough. We said, okay, let's apply for grant. And we talked especially with Sharon Shoemake and the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, that Point Roberts, you remember Governor came, you guys were on the world map, Point Roberts. And we said, this is the biggest need for that community is broadband, and they gave $3.5 million, right? But the process of $3.5 million and bringing hard fiber to every house is we are starting as soon as possible, like I said, 24. We just got the grant in September or something, just now. So I can't do faster than that, right? But I hear from you, and dog park, like I said, okay, whatever those plans are, I don't sit down and work on their 1,000 projects go through my office every day. You know, it's not that, but it's not that I'm stopping it, or I'm saying, oh, don't do that, don't give them dog park, don't give them this, don't give them this. That's not how it works, right? The process takes its own time.
Well, then can we have the dog park as the Christmas gift to the community?
I'll come and bring a fence and I'll build it.
Because I'm sure the community.
Yeah, no, they are working on it. I just heard from that Bennett said the 5-year plan. Let me go back and check with
Because you
Bennett.
gave us the date of 2025, and, you know, it's the old story.
Okay.
About, it's always, you know, that, it's always maybe a year later, or maybe a 2-year later.
No, I'll go back and talk to Bennett and see how we can do it fast.
Because we do have.
But there is no issue of money with the dog park. I can tell you that.
We're not looking for the Taj Mahal, with all
No.
due respect, you know what I'm saying? We're looking for a lousy fence.
Yeah.
With all white.
Okay.
Good, who's got their hand up? Dee is next, and then you.
Always keep my popcorn on. Sorry, I have to clean the community center now. As you can see, we are a very passionate community, and we can come together on things. And like a dog park. And I say that I wouldn't use it because I can walk my dog, but yes, it's great for seniors that get out to socialize. But we can come together, and we do a lot. When the road's flat, when the power is out. We need you guys to all come together and support us, is what we are asking. We don't wanna wait 2 years. I'm not waiting 2 years. Hell, I'll go buy the damn fencing myself. My husband's a contractor and I'll have him put it up.
And
We
they don't know
don't
it's
wait,
there.
and you guys would never even know, you're right, you would never even know that we did it.
Just a comment, is that I constantly go to Bury because I go there as a function of my historical society. And I go into this one joint, and it was an empty lot full of guys shooting up and everything like that. This time I go back, it's a dog park. Where the hell did this come from? And he says, oh, they took the city block, this 1/4 lot, and they put up just redwood fencing and hog wire, and they have a little airlock where you get your dogs in, chain them up, get them assimilated. And I took pictures of it, and if anybody wants to know what, it's, you call the fencing company, how do you build one of those? Well, yeah, we'll be over there on Tuesday. That's what we're looking for, but I thought it was ironic that of all places, Burien. I mean, it's like walking into Dodge City as it is, but, with all deference to Burien, but I've been looking at this lot, here's a beautiful dog park they put up in a month. So it could be done.
Okay, and then we're gonna talk,
Okay.
let's finish Phil.
I have a question.
I'm gonna call on you.
We aren't asking for the world, we're not asking for the moon or the stars, we have all of those things, because we see them every day. We are asking for the things that we used to have, that the county, one by one, has slowly taken away. And so, Paul, this is not against you, because it's way before your time.
I know, I don't take it.
We've been hard on you tonight, I know that.
I'm
But
gonna call on
we
her.
are looking for the things that we used to have.
Yeah.
We had a snowplow driver that lived here all year round, and we had a snowplow at the county works yard, so we didn't have to wait 4 days for our roads to be plowed. We had a dock, we had a lighthouse, we had a seawall that didn't have a giant hole in it. We're just asking for the things that we've always had that have never been maintained. That is what we are asking.
This question is going to be those who are running for executive and those who are running for county council. Mainly those who are running for executive, because as I know, staff for departments such as PDS, Public Works, Health Department are under the executive, and county council has no control over staff and their budgeting, and basically, yes, the budget comes to council to be approved. In the 80s, Whatcom County Council approved a commercial-only sewer plant for Point Roberts. It was a T, it went down Tyee, it went down Gulfport. It never came to fruition. We cannot build our commercial core because we have too much wetland. We can't perk the property. Even if we can perk the property, we don't have enough room to put the septic, the building, and parking. Again, something that we were told, yes, we could have, never came to fruition, very similar to the lighthouse. Past county council, never came to fruition. For about 20, at least probably close to 20 years now, we've been asking for repairs to be done on the seawall down in Maple Beach. Over and over and over and over again. Now we're getting to the point of where the wall is completely undermined. You can actually see underneath the concrete base of that wall. It is pulling away from the road. Again, this is something that the community has come to the county and said, we need this, we need this, we need this. These are 3 things that the community has come to repeatedly over 40 years to the county to say, and you know what the answer has always been? We have no money, we have no money, we have no money. You're rural. I'm sorry, our community has a valuation with no commercial really to speak of $1 billion. You're not just getting property taxes. You're also getting the portion of sales tax derived from Point Roberts. You're getting the portion of liquor tax for Point Roberts, REET funding, on and on and on, all of those funding. We are tired as a community of hearing, we have no money for you, when we have an urban density of over 2,175 homes. We are being taxed as an urban area in a rural community. What are you guys going to do if you are elected to ensure that we are getting some money back and we get some of that infrastructure so we can be a sustainable community. I'm gonna start with that.
So I'm gonna speak super plain and clear and upfront with you guys.
No.
I said it before and I'll say it again, more of the same is gonna give you more of the same. And part of the reason you're told there is no money is because of the environmental regulations that have been put out there that have put these projects at an astronomical amount to tackle. And while I told you before, my perspective is not this or that. We can have a dog park and not have any negative impact on water quality downstream. We can fix a seawall and not have, and mitigate any impacts that are gonna be on, maybe there's herring habitat out there, right? My perspective has always been, there is always a solution, because we live here too, and we have the technology and we have the ability to mitigate that. And so if we continue to elect more of the same that has pushed us to get to where we are, we're never gonna fix the issues that we have. There's an answer. There is an ability to get the money here. There is an ability to put, I can guarantee you why Public Works and the Parks Department doesn't wanna tackle a dock is because of the red tape that they're gonna come across environmentally. But there is a solution. There's a solution to that. And if you have people in office that take that perspective, then you'll get where you need to go. A lot of the issues we see in the rural area is because our comprehensive plan and the rural element of our comprehensive plan was challenged by environmental groups like Resources, like FutureWise. So a lot of the solutions that were proposed by citizens were strong-armed in court to be changed. And so when we see people who represent groups like that say, I would like to lead, they should own what they've done in the past and tell you how they're gonna fix it. So I'd really like to hear from folks who represent groups like that. I'd love to hear their solution.
Actually, I'm gonna move over this way. Yep, I'm going. Your turn. Go.
That's right. Continuing things the way that we've done is not gonna necessarily get us some solutions. We need a change. One of the reasons why I stepped into this is because I'm trying to start a kelp seaweed farm in Birch Bay. I intimately know what it's like to do near shore permitting. I can promise you that I will take a very hard look, if elected, at the dock, at the lighthouse, and other things that might impact the near shore. I volunteer with the MRC where we monitor near shore projects, so I'm very keen on those practices and the way that those things are laid out. I will work very, very hard in making sure that these can come back. The things that you've always had, bring back, and let's do it in an up-to-date, sustainable way where we can meet the environmental needs and also still have those services that you desperately need. I know how those permitting processes work. I also know that Department of Ecology can step up and bring some federal dollars. I don't think that there's gonna be enough funds for a new seawall unless the feds step up and the state. And I understand what it's like to have the Department of Ecology come in and work with the permitting process. So if you'd like to talk about that further, please seek me out after this, and I will work very diligently on making sure that happens, because I work in the water. That's my keen focus. I get you.
Okay, I'm gonna go John, Hannah, that probably.
So I'm not an incumbent, there's no incumbent in our race, this is an open seat. So I have worked in legislative processes before, when I worked for a senator, when I worked for that governor, and advocating on legislative processes and budgets. So thank you for everything you've shared tonight. This has been really helpful and informative for me. So if elected, I'll want to look at those priorities and see where it is that we have that money in the budget. And also listen to other communities too, right? Because the budget has to fit the whole county and to see what works. A bunch of us were in Maple Falls over the weekend hearing from the community there about their needs. And budgets are negotiations and there are compromises in budgets. So I want to hear from folks, look at some of these priorities next year and see what it is that we can do. To Ben's comment on environmental regulations, I agree a lot with Ben on some of the things that are holding us back all across this county when it comes to building housing, when it comes to building out our commercial cores. I think we should be looking at some of those issues. And our comprehensive plan update, which is coming up right now, is a good place to do that and to make sure that we have a policy in place to do what it is that folks want to do in their community. So thank you.
Oh, they're still in the white. Yeah.
So I don't disagree with what Ben was up here sharing, and I think to my point, I don't have any background in any special interest groups that are trying to maneuver policy or trying to make things more challenging, whether it's unrealistic environmental goals or building permits, which I'm in the process of a building permit now, it's quite crazy. I'm just a community member who has lived in a rural community, that listens to that county council to the lack of representation in our rural communities. And to Ben's point, I'm at the county council meetings. I listen to Ben and Kathy Kirschner and Tyler Bird bring up and do the best that they can to represent the voices of all of our small communities, and they just don't get the votes. And it's simply because we have 4 individuals who have positions, 2 which are at large, which is one of the positions that I'm going for, that reside and have interests in Bellingham. So that's where their focus is. For me, I have a unique perspective, one that my opponent does not have. I was raised in the county. I spent 20 years in Bellingham. I understand that urban and rural areas are not the same. And even the rural areas have their unique characteristics that deserve to be preserved, but it doesn't mean that you should be ignored. It doesn't mean that government should make things more complicated for you. It means that you just need people at the table who authentically and genuinely want to represent you.
I think that the question, the answers are here. I have a Band-Aid. The other person says, I have a bigger Band-Aid. The other person says, no, I have a bigger Band-Aid than you. That's not the solutions, guys. You got to look at it. And what Ben said, the policy gets done by collaboration, not confrontation. I have worked with 7 mayors, and they used to be in the county that they're Republican mayors and they're Democrat mayors. Since I've been on the office, I have gotten 70 votes from all the mayors on 99% of the issues which impact all of our county. And you can label me as Democrat or whatever you want to do, but what it is when you are on the table, you're working to solve the issue, not making a point. Ben, you've been there 4 years, right? How many times, let me tell you one more thing. When I became county executive, before the COVID, I sent a letter to all the council members that I would like to meet with you once a month for 1 hour. Pick any date, I will change my schedules, but I will give you preference. How many people took that offer? 2. 2 people. Even during COVID, when big $1 million decisions were made, when we were talking about mandates, we were talking about PPE supply. I'm just giving you one example. This is all true. Nobody came. Nobody came. But standing in front of people and saying, you know, I got a best aid, or those people did something wrong, so that's why it cannot be solved. When you then talks about being a chief executive officer, it's not chief executive officer, it's chief collaborator. Because the government does not run like business. How many times I have to tell you that? Government is a flat organization. Every mayor is a CEO. Sheriff is a CEO. Assessor is a CEO. They don't work for you. You have to bring them along. I can't walk into a mayor of Bellingham and say, this is what we want to do. You can't do that. You can't say, I'm CEO, so you listen to me. Government, another thing, we are county.
We are dependent on state, state is dependent on federal government. When you run a small business, you are a microcosm itself. You can be CEO, you can tell people because you are the only one. We can have the best plans, and states legislature passes a new law, we are zero. You can't say, I'm CEO, I'm gonna do all this, solve all this, because you do not have an independent organization. If we do something and cities don't agree, cities can say, no, we're not gonna do this, land use policies, all these other things. You cannot just do it by yourself. That's a folly.
Dan?
I don't understand why you would clap for that, because it's completely false. Article 3 of the Whatcom County Charter. Section 3.2, the county executive. The county executive is the chief executive officer of Whatcom County. It doesn't say chief collaborator. The guy doesn't even know the job he's in. Section 3.22, powers and duties. As chief executive officer, the county executive shall have all the executive powers of the county which are not expressly vested in other specific elected officers by this charter. Let me give you just a couple of examples of what the executive is supposed to be doing for you, Point Roberts. This individual is supposed to supervise all, not some, all administrative offices and executive departments established by this charter and created by the county council. This individual is supposed to execute and enforce all, not some, all ordinances and state statutes within the county. I jumped down to letter F of 3.22 powers and duties. Veto any ordinance adopted by the county council except as otherwise provided in this charter. Look, 4 years ago, you elected a manager. You have 2 weeks to elect a leader. A leader will take Point Roberts and the county in a new direction. Less talk, more action. By the way, you have given me so many good talking points here. Thank you so much for your honesty and openness.
Listen, you're gonna get the bill for that.
Up to 40 grand. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, and he was born in Newark. And I lived in Newark, Delaware. I'm not allowed to say Newark in Delaware, because they just look at this one like, what?
You get the bill, Dave.
So, what we've done here tonight is America. America is all about grassroots, it's about building consensus, it's about collaborating, but it's also knowing the job that you're running for, and for Pete's sake, knowing the job that you're already in. The reason you're not represented Precinct 101 is because he's not been doing his job. Is it a dereliction of duty? You decide. You gotta make a change. You've heard several candidates say that. You can't keep doing the same things over and over again. You're gonna get the same results. But you did get a dog park. That's a campaign promise you got tonight. Congratulations.
Thanks, Dan.
So where's the chicken in every pot? None of that.
Okay, it is now 8 o'clock. I'm not gonna say it's the witching hour, I'm not gonna turn into a pumpkin, but we did say that we were gonna end at 8. I wanna thank everyone who is running for office for coming to Point Roberts. I know it's a bit of a drive. We're all used to it, and at least you came at a day of the week where you don't have to wait in the water line for an hour. Thank you, everyone in the community who came and participated, those who are online, who watched with us. Everybody, make sure you fill out your ballot. Make sure you turn it in. Make sure that you use the voice that you have. And I think we've shown here that going forward, regardless who is elected,
Right.
we're no longer taking no for an answer.
Great for you.
And it was brought up about the 2 people, or 2 of them, whatever, that were on, that would always represent a certain community. And I learned something back after I got out of college.
I didn't get a chance to go to graduate school. I went to graduate school at Fort Knox, Kentucky. So that was 71. It's a different world, a different time. Thank God it's not now. So, thanks for your service. Thank you.